Grover Constructions collapses. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because Grover Constructions, it's collapsed. Another one to add to the ongoing construction apocalypse. Let's have a look at this article from news.com.au. Grover Constructions building company collapses. Creditors claim to be owed $1 million. Now people will go in the comments, Florian, $1 million is nothing. That's just a house in Sydney. Well, I don't know about you, but if I was owed $1 million, I'd be pretty bloody pissed off about it. I mean, this is the difference. For a small business person, this is a significant amount of money. This is a significant amount of money for several businesses. If you haven't experienced having a business, having a team of people work for you, and having a big chunk of money not paid when you need it to be paid, you don't really understand how stressful that is. There's a reason why my beard turned grey really quick, and it's only half because I have so many daughters. But so that's why these are important, and this is the fallout through juicing up the market, guys. We have to remember this, okay? The government came to the rescue. And it's a few things. I know I show this a lot, but if we don't talk about it, everyone's going to pretend it never happened. They kept zombie companies alive. They changed the rules. They changed the rules to allow companies to trade while insolvent. Now, that's one of the few bloody things. I would say the only useful thing ASIC does is force you to sign a stat deck and do paperwork every year saying you're not insolvent as a business. I would say that's their number one role. I don't know if it amounts to anything, but at least it makes people think, hopefully. But they just changed the rules. Now, you're saying, oh, that's years ago. True, it was, but it takes time for this damage to flow through. The damage that can occur for a company trading insolvent is called kicking the can down the road. Now, companies aren't as lucky as our political class. They can't just kick the can at a state level because they're not forcing people to pay taxes. So it comes to a head. But you've got to remember that. And external administrations and insolvencies really declined. Or JobKeeper, well, that's just a whole other kettle of fish. But you've got the rate cuts, which are finally going back to normal. You've got Home Builder, you've got grants, 2% government guaranteed loans for single households. Now, I don't blame people for jumping into property and taking advantage of it. But the problem was we were in an overheated market. There was FOMO, and 2% is insane. It's insane. If you're struggling to save a even 5% deposit or 10% and get the mortgage insurance that you have to depend on this government scheme, you could struggle when interest rates increase, which they have now, and I'm hoping you push through. And then negative gearing and super withdrawals, all of this heated up the housing market, as you can see there. And what we have before us now is just another company to add to the growing list. Just look at the hashtag construction apocalypse playlist on the channel. The sad news about the building firm is the latest in a long string of company collapses, and this one could owe up to $1 million to a single person. Oh, that's even worse. A Sydney building firm has become the latest to join a long list of failed construction companies. Grover Constructions, a small residential builder, see, it's the spec home sector, they're really copying it, in the Sydney metropolitan area, went into voluntary liquidation in September. Last week, a new liquidator was appointed at the request of the firm's largest creditor. The new appointee, Brad Morelli, of insolvency firm Juras Sutherland, told news.com.au that early investigations had put the debt at $647,000 at least. That included $400,000 debt from a court order. An employee owed $5,000 in unpaid superannuation, and a law firm owed $1,200. This is I told you the story of a mate at uni, and this is pretty sad. Actually, I actually bumped into him at a trade event, and we were, I was throwing out my diet and having a few beers, and so was he. And I reminded him because he'd worked for a firm up in the sunny coast, and they made him redundant and hadn't paid his super. They screwed him over, or they didn't pay any long service leave. I had another friend who got no super paid, and he said, all these memories, he'd blocked it all, he'd forgotten it all, and I brought all these memories back. I said, well, mate, don't feel bad. You've turned into a story now I mentioned to my viewers, and maybe there's someone younger that learns from that. always check that you're getting paid your super, and don't trust the pay slips because that's all bullshit. You want to check on the super fund. And this is why I told my staff one of the advantages of having a super fund that's you can visibly see all the time, like connected to your bank, is that you can see it. You can actually see it to make sure you're getting paid. That's the one advantage of it. There are a whole lot of other disadvantages, but is that financial advice, making sure that you actually see your super gets paid in your super account? I wouldn't think it. I think that's just common sense, isn't it? But anyway, I digress. This is what can happen. $5,000 is a decent chunk of super. That's your money. This is why I'd advocate for people getting it paid directly. And then the individual, is forced to transfer it to their super fund. And the super fund chases them if they don't pay it in there. It'll never happen. It'll cause a whole lot of problems and be a nightmare. But still, then you've only got yourself to blame. There are also several related debts, which is when the people running the company are owed money from the entity. That includes the director of Grover Constructions, owed around $125 from unpaid employee entitlements, as well as a $95,000 debt and a $21,000 debt from other lenders owed money. So were they chucking money in the company to keep it going and not taking a salary as the director of a business? Maybe. I would not be surprised. Nothing appears to be owed to the tax office so far. Wow. That's a change of tune. The latest creditor claims their $400,000 debt is actually closer to $1 million. Mr. Morelli said the 647 debt figure will likely change as he investigates further. I don't know what the number will ultimately be, but these are the numbers the directors put forward, he told news.com.au. For instance, the firm's biggest creditor has lodged a proof of debt claim for $1 million over a court case judgment, while the director has put it at $400,000. This is a mess. Grover Constructions reportedly collapsed because of this expensive lawsuit that didn't rule in the company's favor. It's not your typical failed business company or failed building company. It would appear it's been done off the back of litigation. Yeah, but what caused the litigation? The legal case went for a number of years in the Supreme Court. News.com.au contact the director for comment. The previous liquidator. There you go. Oh, yeah, and you can't see anything from their site. A spate of construction company collapses this year. Yep, so we're going through the growing list. Tozer, Blint, Lanksey, Bessie, Snowden Developments, and Wilbury House, among many others, everyone. I mean, this is the ongoing construction apocalypse. Let's have a talk about this. We have to remember this is partly because of an overheated sector driven by government stimulus in response to the economic restrictions to mitigate the coronavirus. Now, is this all worth it? I would argue no. Epidemiologists had argued against all of these strict economic interventions, arguing they weren't worth it years and years ago. We're now having new reports coming out confirming that, particularly the impact it's having on schools, and now we're seeing the damage to businesses. We need to not forget the lessons, and we need to appreciate why so much of this damage is being caused. Perhaps this is one example where it's litigation and not the result of the mess that happened. We'll have to see. What do you reckon, guys? Do you think we're going to learn any lessons for this, and how many more companies need to go under? As always, thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other topics I discuss. And if you're a fan and want to support us, you can financially on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays. Bye for now.